With tolling bells, personal tributes, and tears, Americans looking back on the 9/11 anniversary today. Observances of America's deadliest terrorist attack, commemoration stretching from the attack sites in Pennsylvania and the Pentagon and in New York City as well.
It is 5:30. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen.
Thanks for being with us. I'm Sam Ryan. Today marking the 22nd anniversary of 9/11, in which over 3,000 Americans were killed. One of the survivors from the attack on the Pentagon is a current South Dakota state lawmaker based out of Sioux Falls.
District 9 Senator Brent Hoffman was in the building when American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into its west wall. His memories are vivid, and his perspective on life forever changed. John Gaskins caught up with Hoffman and has more in our 5:30 top story. John.
Brian, at 9 a.m. Eastern on September 11th, 2001, Brent Hoffman was like a lot of us at that time, watching the live pictures of the Twin Towers torpedoed by airplanes on a TV set in a break room with coworkers. But 40 minutes later, the Air Force logistics worker was living the nightmare up close.
Even as I describe it, to me, it also feels surreal, different, as if it were another life entirely.
Hoffman was a nuclear weapons officer in the Air Force wing of the building, and he heard a loud boom.
It felt really like an earthquake, like a bomb had gone off. As a matter of fact, some people initially said, "Oh my God, it's a truck bomb."
It was chaos. Hoffman's group exited the building, and then once outside, they found out a commercial jet flying at 500 miles per hour and propelled by 9,000 gallons of fuel had bored through 3 layers of limestone, steel, and concrete, killing 184 people in the Army wing. It was just 600 feet from where Hoffman's group was. They watched flames destroy a portion of the Pentagon and an outer wall collapse.
When something like that happens, you just immediately go pale, get sweaty, and it's a very scary feeling.
Hoffman's wife, Mary Jo, was at home with their infant son, and there was no way for him to contact her until he finally arrived at their house 3 hours after the crash.
It was just a very traumatic, emotional time for my family, my friends. It just reminds you of what is important in life, is that faith and relationships really are the only thing that outlasts us.
The very next day, Hoffman accepted a job offer from the White House to be the commander of President George Bush's Emergency Operators Center, but he later backed out. The attack had helped nudge him to retire from the Air Force 2 years later, and he moved his family to Sioux City, where he was born.
But it was just a very traumatic, emotional time for my family, my friends. It just reminds you of what is important in life, is that faith and relationships really are the only thing that outlasts us.
Now, a few years after moving to Sioux City, Mary Jo, Hoffman's wife, died from cancer, and Hoffman moved his 2 young kids to the Sioux Falls area, where he has been ever since. Now a state senator, Hoffman wishes all politicians and all Americans can once again unite the way they did after 9/11. Brian?
John Gaskins, thank you.